So Donald Trump just had an outburst in federal court so severe that the judge threatened to remove him from his own trial. And what triggered this explosion? His former White House counsel, someone who spent years defending Trump's most controversial decisions, just testified under oath that Trump personally ordered the falsification of financial documents while under active investigation. The witness described Trump telling him directly, and I quote, "Make the numbers work. I don't care how you do it." This wasn't some distant associate or disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. This was Trump's own lawyer, someone who had attorney-client privilege protecting their conversations, who made the extraordinary decision to waive that privilege and cooperate with prosecutors. From the get-go, this witness was considered untouchable, bound by legal ethics and personal loyalty. But guess what? When faced with his own disbarment and criminal charges, this ultimate insider chose truth over protecting Trump. He's been meeting with prosecutors for 6 months, and today the jury heard exactly what he told them. It's honestly hard to believe we're watching this unfold. This isn't just about one damaging witness. We're talking about someone who was present for the most sensitive legal decisions of Trump's presidency, who knows where everybody is buried, sitting in that witness chair describing criminal conduct he personally witnessed. And trust me, Trump's reaction in that courtroom tells you everything about how devastating this testimony really is. Let me fill you in on what's been happening. The trial has been building toward this moment for weeks. Prosecutors methodically presented bank records, emails, and testimony from accountants establishing that Trump's financial statements contained material misrepresentations. The defense has been arguing that Trump relied on his advisors, that any errors were honest mistakes made by subordinates, and that the whole prosecution was politically motivated. It was shaping up as a technical case about accounting standards and intent. But here's where the rubber meets the road. According to CNN's courtroom reporters, the atmosphere changed completely when prosecutors called Patrick Fillon, Trump's former deputy White House counsel, to the stand. Fillon entered through the main courtroom doors, making brief eye contact with Trump before taking his seat. The defendant reportedly sat back in his chair, initially, arms crossed, watching his former attorney prepare to testify. Multiple reporters noted that Trump's expression changed from confidence to visible tension as Fillon was sworn in. And before we go any further, let's be real for a second. When a lawyer waives attorney-client privilege to testify against their former client, that's not a decision made lightly. That privilege is sacred in the legal profession. Breaking it means Fillon believed the crimes he witnessed outweighed his duty of confidentiality. Here's where it gets interesting. The testimony began with Phil Bin establishing his credentials and relationship with Trump. According to CBS News reporting from inside the courtroom, he described 3 years working in the White House counsel's office, handling everything from executive privilege claims to vetting judicial nominees. He explained that he had daily access to Trump and participated in meetings about the most sensitive legal matters facing the administration. He was, by all accounts, in the room where it happened for countless critical decisions. Then prosecutors asked him about the fall of 2022 after New York Attorney General Letitia James had filed her civil fraud lawsuit and was seeking Trump's business records. Fillon described a series of meetings at Mar-a-Lago where Trump grew increasingly agitated about the disclosure requirements. According to multiple reporters in the courtroom, Fillon testified that Trump explicitly asked him to find ways to alter financial documents that had already been provided to accountants. The bombshell came when prosecutors asked what Trump said specifically. Fillon testified that Trump told him, "These numbers make me look poor, fix them. I don't care if you have to create new appraisals or backdate documents, just make it work." According to courtroom observers, Philbin's voice remained steady, but his discomfort was visible as he described Trump's instructions. He testified that he told Trump this would be illegal, that they couldn't alter documents under subpoena, and Trump's response, according to Fillon, was, "Then you're not creative enough. Find someone who is." This testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom because it establishes direct knowledge and intent. This wasn't Trump being misled by advisors. This was Trump giving explicit instructions to commit fraud, being told it was illegal, and demanding it happen anyway. The defense strategy of blaming accountants and lawyers becomes impossible when Trump's own counsel testifies that Trump knew exactly what he was asking for and was told it was criminal. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen people close to Trump eventually turn against him when their own careers and freedom were at stake. This pattern of inner circle members becoming cooperating witnesses has repeated throughout Trump's legal troubles. Just think about how Ty Cobb, another former White House lawyer, went from defending Trump's handling of the Mueller investigation to publicly stating that Trump likely committed crimes and should be held accountable. Cobb spent months as Trump's attorney, then watched Trump's behavior post-presidency and decided his loyalty had limits. Then there was Pat Cipollone, Trump's White House counsel, who resisted testifying for months, but eventually sat for a deposition with the January 6th committee. Cipollone described Trump's actions on January 6th in devastating detail, contradicting Trump's claims about what he knew and when. He chose his oath to tell the truth over protecting Trump's narrative. And let's not forget how Cassidy Hutchinson, Mark Meadows' aide, provided testimony that painted a damning picture of Trump's state of mind and actions. She was considered absolutely loyal, part of the MAGA inner circle. But when subpoenaed and facing potential perjury charges, she told investigators everything she witnessed. Even Trump's own Attorney General, Bill Barr, eventually broke with Trump over the election fraud claims. Barr had been one of Trump's most aggressive defenders, intervening in cases to help Trump's allies, but when Trump demanded Barr endorse baseless fraud claims, Barr refused and resigned. Now, it looks like Patrick Phelan joins this list of former loyalists who discovered that protecting Trump wasn't worth destroying their own integrity and facing criminal liability. The pattern is unmistakable. Trump demands absolute loyalty until that loyalty requires people to commit crimes, and then he's shocked when they choose self-preservation over martyrdom. So, what specifically did Trump do in court that caused the judge to threaten removal? Well, it all boils down to his complete inability to control himself when confronted with testimony from someone he trusted. According to reporters from multiple outlets who were present, Trump's reactions escalated throughout Phelan's testimony. He began by shaking his head and muttering under his breath. When Phelan described the Mar-a-Lago meetings, Trump's muttering grew louder. Then, when Phelan quoted Trump's instruction to make the numbers work, Trump reportedly said loud enough for jurors to hear, "That's a complete fabrication. He's lying." Now, here's the kicker. Judge Arthur Angeron immediately called attorneys to sidebar. When they returned, he issued a stern warning directly to Trump. He explained that defendants have the right to be present at their trials, but disruptive behavior forfeits that right. He told Trump that one more outburst would result in his removal from the courtroom for the remainder of the trial. According to MSNBC's legal analyst Lisa Rubin, who was in the courtroom, Trump appeared physically strained, trying to contain himself during the remainder of direct examination. His face flushed red. His attorneys were passing him notes constantly. At one point, he slammed his hand on the defense table loud enough that the court reporter looked up from her machine. While the judge's warning prevented another verbal outburst, Trump's body language continued broadcasting fury. Legal experts noted that jurors could clearly see the defendant's reactions, and visible rage during a former attorney's testimony rarely helps with the people deciding your fate. This was the moment the defense's entire strategy began crumbling in real time. You see, Trump's attorneys had been working to present him as a businessman who relied on professionals and followed their advice. His inability to sit quietly while his own lawyer described the opposite undermines that narrative completely. And then came the cross-examination, which somehow made things even worse for Trump. His lead attorney, Alina Habba, attempted to suggest that Phelan was lying to avoid his own legal problems. But prosecutors hadn't offered Phelan any deal. He wasn't testifying in exchange for immunity or leniency. He was testifying because he'd been subpoenaed and because, as he explained, he took an oath as an attorney to uphold the law. When Habba suggested Phelan's memory might be faulty about conversations from 2022, Phelan revealed he had kept detailed contemporaneous notes of his meetings with Trump specifically because Trump's requests made him uncomfortable. Those notes, which prosecutors had already entered into evidence, corroborated every major detail of his testimony. They included dates, times, who else was present, and even some direct quotes. Haba tried to argue that Filmon's decision to keep notes showed he was building a case against Trump from the start, but that backfired spectacularly. Filon explained that lawyers keep detailed notes when clients ask them to do potentially illegal things precisely to protect themselves and document what occurred. The jury heard a seasoned attorney explain that Trump's requests were so obviously improper that documenting them was necessary. Now, this left Trump's defense team scrambling for alternatives. On one side, they need to discredit an attorney who worked for Trump in the White House, who has no immunity deal, who has contemporaneous notes, and whose testimony matches documentary evidence. That's extraordinarily difficult when the witness has no obvious motive to lie and everything to lose professionally by breaking attorney-client privilege. On the flip side, they have to somehow explain why Trump's own lawyer would fabricate such specific conversations and why Trump is reacting so explosively if the testimony is false. The tricky part is that every avenue of attack has been anticipated, so Trump's attorneys are caught in a bind. They can either continue attacking Filmon's credibility, which means calling a decorated attorney and White House counsel a liar while ignoring his corroborating notes and documents. That risks alienating jurors who found his testimony detailed and credible, or they can try to reframe what Filon heard, arguing perhaps that Trump was speaking hyperbolically or venting frustration rather than giving actual instructions. But that contradicts Filon's testimony that he took Trump's requests seriously enough to document them and tell Trump they were illegal. This whole scenario is causing panic throughout Trump's legal team and political operation. If Trump's own White House counsel is testifying against him with this level of detail and documentation, the implications extend far beyond this trial. Other former advisors are watching and wondering whether they'll be next to receive subpoenas. And Trump supporters are grappling with testimony that's difficult to dismiss as partisan. According to Fox News coverage, even reliably pro-Trump commentators struggled to explain away Filmon's testimony, with several focusing on attacking the judge and prosecutors rather than disputing the specific allegations. Meanwhile, the prosecution team appeared energized. According to courtroom observers, prosecutors were visibly pleased with how the direct examination unfolded and how their witness maintained composure under cross-examination. The evidence they've been building for months suddenly has a credible witness putting Trump's own words in front of the jury. Things became even more intense when during the lunch recess, Trump posted on Truth Social calling Filon a deep state plant and a Trojan horse who was never really loyal. Legal experts immediately noted that attacking a testifying witness on social media during trial could be considered witness intimidation and could potentially support additional charges. Legal analysts are noting that testimony of this nature often proves decisive in white-collar criminal trials. An insider witness with contemporaneous notes and no cooperation deal is exactly what prosecutors dream of having. Andrew Weissman, former Mueller investigation prosecutor, went on MSNBC and stated, "This is devastating testimony. You have a lawyer who worked for Trump describing him ordering document falsification, being told it's illegal, and demanding it anyway. That's consciousness of guilt. That's intent. That's everything prosecutors need." Former federal prosecutor Eli Honig added on CNN that Trump's courtroom behavior may have sealed his fate. He explained that when jurors see a defendant losing control, specifically during testimony from his own former attorney, they interpret it as validation of what they're hearing. So let's break down what this testimony could mean. Because it's not just a captivating courtroom drama. It has serious consequences for Trump's legal exposure, his political future, and broader questions of accountability. First up is the immediate trial impact. The prosecution has now presented testimony from Trump's own attorney that Trump knowingly ordered illegal conduct. This directly addresses the intent element that prosecutors must prove. Before Filon's testimony, the case relied heavily on documentary evidence and expert witnesses explaining why Trump's financial statements were false. That's a strong case. but it requires jurors to understand complex financial concepts. After Filmon's testimony, the case became much simpler. Trump told his lawyer to falsify documents, was told it was illegal, and demanded it anyway. That's a narrative any jury can understand. Legal observers who have been following the trial closely told Politico that this single day of testimony may have shifted the odds of conviction dramatically. Before today, analysts rated Trump's chances at trial as uncertain, maybe 50-50 depending on jury composition. After this testimony, several experienced trial lawyers described conviction as highly likely. Filmon's credibility remained largely intact after cross-examination. His lack of any cooperation agreement actually strengthens his testimony because jurors know he has nothing to gain from lying. The contemporaneous notes eliminate any argument about faulty memory, and Trump's explosive reaction in court essentially validated everything Filmon said. Now let's touch on what this means for Trump's broader legal situation. This testimony potentially implicates Trump in additional criminal conduct beyond what's currently charged. If he ordered document falsification while under investigation, that's obstruction of justice. If he did this after being told it was illegal, that defeats any good faith defense. If he tried to pressure his attorney to commit crimes, that could be attempted subordination of perjury or conspiracy. Prosecutors in other jurisdictions are undoubtedly taking notes. The same pattern of conduct that Filmon described, ordering falsification, being warned it's illegal, demanding it anyway, likely occurred in other contexts. Looking ahead to the political implications, this testimony creates serious problems for Trump's campaign. Republican primary voters will now see testimony from Trump's own White House counsel describing him ordering crimes. The testimony creates a concrete narrative that's far more damaging than abstract legal arguments. Voters can understand Trump ordering his lawyer to cook the books and being told it's illegal. Even Trump's most loyal supporters will struggle to explain away his own attorney's testimony. And Trump's inevitable attacks on Phil Bin as a deep state traitor will ring hollow because Filmon spent years serving in Trump's White House defending controversial decisions. So here's the deal. Donald Trump's own White House counsel just told a jury that he watched Trump order document falsification, warned Trump it was illegal, and heard Trump demand it happen anyway. Trump's reaction was so explosive that the judge threatened to remove him from his own trial, and the corroborating notes and evidence make dismissing this testimony nearly impossible. This isn't just about one bad day in court. It's about the complete collapse of the defense narrative that Trump was a businessman who relied on advisors and made innocent mistakes. When your own lawyer testifies that you ordered crimes after being told they were crimes, reasonable doubt becomes very difficult to establish. If this testimony stands and the jury believes it, we're watching the legal system function exactly as designed, using insider witnesses to prove cases that would otherwise be he said, she said. That would mean the pattern of Trump escaping accountability through loyalty and intimidation has finally hit its limit when the witnesses or lawyers bound by their oaths to tell the truth. It's about so much more than just this trial. It's about whether anyone, regardless of power or position, can be held accountable when the people closest to them finally tell the truth about what they witnessed. So, keep an eye on this. The trial continues with additional witnesses expected, including potentially other former White House attorneys. Trump's behavior remains volatile, with observers wondering if he'll actually be removed from his own trial. And the jury is watching everything, including how the defendant reacts when his own people describe his conduct under oath. The stakes have never been higher, the testimony never more damaging from someone this close to Trump.